Miss Yu, are you sure you want to proceed with the abortion? Ivy Yu clutched the medical report in her hand and nodded firmly. Yes, I'm certain. The doctor sighed regretfully but did not dissuade her. All right, the optimal time for an abortion is between 35 to 55 days after conception. Considering your physical condition, I've already scheduled it for 10 days from now. Thank you. Ivy Yu sat in the hospital corridor, stroking her belly, and booked a ticket to return to her hometown in 10 days. Meanwhile, a live broadcast of Changhong Group's new product launch was airing on television. Since its listing, apart from its exceptional product quality, the romantic life of Changhong Group's chairman, Chase Fu, has also attracted considerable attention. Chase Fu is handsome, intelligent, and incredibly wealthy. He is also seen as a romantic figure in the eyes of the world. Changhong's first voice-enabled smart product was named Xiao Yu. Now, their newly launched smartphone is called Xinyan. Chase Fu dotes on his wife, making the whole world envious. The product has won the favor of many female consumers. During an off-site interview, one female consumer admitted, "Actually, I know nothing about the new phone, but I hope that after my husband buys it, he'll dote on me just like CEO Fu does on his wife." The reporter relayed the consumer's comment to Chase Fu. He joked, "President Fu, everyone knows you're a wife-spoiling fanatic. If Mrs. Fu were to have a child in the future, would you become a slave to your kid?" In the frame, Chase Fu pondered seriously before responding with a composed smile. "I look forward to that day, but everything will be based on my wife's wishes. Moreover, rather than being labeled a slave to my child, I'd prefer the tag wife-spoiling fanatic to remain on me." A wave of good-natured laughter erupted from the audience. Ivy Yu's phone buzzed. It was a message from her friend, Su Mo. The other party excitedly sent over a dozen messages. "Hurry up and do something about Chase Fu. If nothing else, quickly have a baby with your Fu Zong. He's practically rubbed our child bald today. To be honest, Ivy Yu, I really envy you. It must take 8 lifetimes of good karma to land such a wonderful husband." Ivy Yu saw the message and smiled self-deprecatingly. She truly had a fortunate life. From childhood, her parents were deeply in love, remaining as sweet as newlyweds even after decades of marriage. Yet this very fact made her own romantic path exceptionally rough. Having witnessed beautiful love, she became extremely particular about her partner. Approaching 26, still never been in a relationship, until she met Chase Fu. It was as if he was born with a program named Love Ivy Yu wholeheartedly. From daily necessities to major decisions, everything revolved around Ivy Yu's primary will. Chase Fu has a memo notebook. Ivy Yu doesn't like eating fish, dislikes scallions, ginger, and garlic. Enjoys cherries, and has morning grumpiness. His brother found it utterly baffling and asked curiously, "With so many preferences, don't you find it annoying?" Chase Fu simply replied, "Don't you think it's adorable?" His brother was left speechless, but Ivy Yu remained reserved and never gave in. It wasn't until she went on a trip with Chase Fu and encountered a mudslide, countless rocks tumbling down the cliff, crushing the cockpit out of shape. In that instant, Chase Fu shielded Ivy Yu without hesitation, while he himself received 3 critical condition notices in the ICU. A person can disregard their own life, just to ensure the other survives. How can that not be considered deep love? At that moment, Ivy Yu was finally moved. During the wedding, Chase Fu cried like a child, his hands trembling as he placed the ring on Ivy Yu's finger, solemnly vowing, "I, Chase Fu, will love Ivy Yu for a lifetime, remaining loyal to you. If I break this vow, may I die a terrible death." Ivy Yu whispered softly, "I hope that day never comes. Chase Fu, I am someone who loves deeply, but once betrayed, I will never look back." Chase Fu loved her, and naturally, she loved him just as fiercely. Now, the beauty has been shattered by reality. Half a month ago, she discovered Chase Fu checking into a hotel with another woman. According to the records, the two had been together for at least 6 months, meeting twice a week. At that moment, vows turned into a slap across the face. Ivy Yu caressed her flat stomach, signed the divorce papers, and sealed them in an envelope. She meant what she said. Once betrayed, never look back. Half an hour later, Chase Fu, who had been at the new product launch event, rushed home breathless and covered in sweat. He carefully embraced IVU and asked softly, "Honey, just now Aunt Lee said you're pregnant, we're going to have a baby, is it true?" IVU suppressed the bitterness in her heart and nodded slowly. "Yes," silently, she added in her mind, "but it will soon be gone, and there won't be another one after this." Chase Fu had no idea at all. He was so overjoyed he didn't know what to do. After snapping out of it, he quickly took out his phone to contact his secretary. Double everyone's bonus this month. He then hurriedly showed off to his friends, reaping a wave of envy and congratulations. IVU slightly curled her lips and handed him the freshly sealed letter. "There's one more gift." Chase Fu made a move to unwrap it. IVU stopped him. "Open it 10 days later. Now is not the time." Chase Fu immediately added it to his memo. He planted a kiss on IVU's lips and sighed. "I truly am the luckiest man in the world." IVU smiled without speaking. Early the next morning, Chase Fu cancelled all company matters and personally took IVU to the private hospital funded by the Fu family for a checkup. When the definitive results came in again, he excitedly pressed his head against IVU's abdomen. A servant nearby reminded him, "Mr. Fu, you can't hear the fetal movement at this stage yet." Chase Fu retorted foolishly, I can hear it. The servant covered her mouth and giggled. He then carefully asked the doctor about the precautions for early pregnancy. Despite being a high-ranking CEO, he anxiously pulled out his phone's memo app and jotted them down one by one. When he heard that morning sickness might cause the pregnant woman to lose her appetite and vomit frequently, Chase Fu's eyes turned red. He hugged IVU and said with a choked voice, "Honey, you've worked so hard. If only men could get pregnant too. I wish we could have a child. But I don't want you to suffer." IVU gently stroked Chase Fu's hair. She fought back the tears welling up in her eyes, as well as the silent scream in her heart. Why, if the love is so deep, why still cheat? Is it really that hard to remain loyal to just one person forever? Chase Fu was completely unaware of this. His phone was buzzing incessantly with calls from his secretary. After all, as the president of a publicly listed company, canceling a morning's worth of work meant an even busier afternoon. But he couldn't rest easy, so he brought IVU back to the company with him. He adjusted the air conditioning to a comfortable temperature, prepared snacks to IVU's liking, and even arranged for another secretary to attend to her before finally feeling reassured enough to attend his meeting. Before leaving, Chase Fu nuzzled against IVU's shoulder like a big dog and sighed, I wish I could stay by my wife's side forever and never leave. Why do I have so much work to do?" When showing affection, Chase Fu doesn't avoid doing so in front of his subordinates. Many female employees couldn't help but steal glances, and whispers reached IVU's ears. "Sigh, when will I be as fortunate as Mrs. Fu?" President Fu is usually completely indifferent to the opposite sex. Who would have thought he could be this adorable in front of his wife? Mrs. Fu isn't bad either. She's beautiful and a graduate of a prestigious university. We just don't have that kind of luck. Amid the chatter, a cold snort came from the crowd. A strikingly attractive woman with a slender figure, dressed in designer clothes, tossed her luxury handbag onto the table. She said disdainfully, "What's there to envy about that?" The onlookers immediately caught on and chimed in. Yes, Secretary Chen. Your husband dotes on you too, Secretary Chen. Who doesn't know your husband just bought you a Maybach? So stylish and beautiful. Secretary Chen is truly blessed. I heard your husband is planning to buy you a small villa too. The secretary, noticing IVU's prolonged gaze at Nova Chen, whispered an explanation. She's also one of President Fu's secretaries. Rumor has it her husband is President Fu's business partner. She's just here to pass the time. Mrs. Fu, don't take it to heart with her. IVU gave a cold smile but remained silent. Chase Fu kept it well hidden. Not even his personal secretary knew. Because the financial backer behind Nova Chen was none other than Chase Fu himself, he openly kept her under his watchful eye. Even if their schedules aligned, no one would suspect a thing. In the crowd, Nova Chen proudly pulled out a diamond-studded bracelet, each gem plump and dazzlingly brilliant. She boasted triumphantly, "This was also custom-made for me by my husband. His SVIC money can't buy this." Gasps of astonishment filled the surroundings. I saw it on the official website. A fully diamond-encrusted one like this costs at least $1 million. Spending $1 million just to buy a bracelet for your wife, Secretary Chen, your husband's spending power is as formidable as President Fu's. Ivy Yu's pupils constricted sharply. She couldn't help but clench her wrist tightly. Last week, on her birthday, Chase Fu gave her a bracelet. At the time, he said, "I specially went to the boutique to have this bracelet custom-made for my wife. It's one of a kind. Just like how my wife is a unique treasure to me in this world." Now, Nova Chen is holding an identical bracelet in her hand. One of a kind. Ivy Yu pondered over the term, slightly lowering her head to let the tears fall straight down. What an ironic one of a kind. Ivy Yu felt a sudden suffocation. Chapter 3. Ivy Yu looked listless, quickly catching the secretary's attention. She didn't dare to be negligent. After all, everyone knew that Ivy Yu was Chase Fu's most treasured possession. She quickly informed Chase Fu of the news. 5 minutes later, Chase Fu, having just finished a cross-border meeting without time to rest, immediately appeared before Ivy Yu. He first touched Ivy Yu's forehead with his hand, then glanced at the barely opened snacks. Feeling a bit heartbroken, he hugged Ivy Yu. "Honey, is it too noisy here, making you uncomfortable? Let's go home." "Okay." Ivy Yu didn't refuse. Like a nanny, Chase Fu helped Ivy Yu into her coat, slung her delicate little bag over his shoulder, and supported her as they walked out. From beginning to end, he didn't spare a single glance for anyone else. But Ivy Yu could sense that among the crowd, a gaze was consistently fixed on her. Upon returning home, Chase Fu tied on an apron. No one would have imagined that a billionaire CEO would personally cook, yet for him, it was just a routine matter. Ivy Yu is picky with food but kind-hearted. Even if the food prepared by the nanny doesn't suit her taste, she doesn't complain, just silently eats less. Chase Fu, feeling distressed, took on the responsibility. He busied himself in the kitchen for half an hour and brought out a steaming spread of 3 dishes and a soup. Without pausing to catch his breath, he first picked up a piece of spare rib with chopsticks and brought it to Ivy Yu's lips. Ah, Ivy Yu had just swallowed it. Chase Fu's phone rang abruptly. He glanced at it, his expression changing slightly before quickly returning to normal, and explained, "Honey, my business partner is calling me. I need to take this first." 5 minutes later, Chase Fu apologized with a face full of guilt. "There's an emergency at the company. Honey, eat your meal properly. I need to go back for a bit." Before Ivy Yu could respond, Chase Fu turned and left the house like a gust of wind. Ivy Yu knew very well that at this moment, the only one who could lure him away was that secretary. She completely lost her appetite. Turning around, she went out and hailed a taxi, arriving at the entrance of a high-end apartment building based on the location from Chase Fu's dashcam. Chase Fu had just arrived and was parking in the underground garage. Coincidentally, Ivy Yu was the homeowner here. When she first went to college, her parents worried she might not get along with her roommates, so they specially bought a small apartment for her. Chase Fu happened to be unaware of this. Using the excuse that the place had been unoccupied for a long time, she approached the property management staff who were monitoring the surveillance. They had just exchanged a few words when the elevator doors opened. Chase Fu and Nova Chen appeared on the surveillance footage, eagerly embracing and kissing each other. Ivy Yu even saw Chase Fu slip his hand under Nova Chen's clothes, roughly caressing her. Nova Chen smiled coyly, playfully pushing Chase Fu away with a half-hearted gesture. In response, Chase Fu only deepened his passionate kiss, until the elevator stopped on the 17th floor. Chase Fu could no longer contain himself and picked up Nova Chen horizontally, walking straight out. This scene happened coincidentally and quickly, so much so that even the property management didn't notice. Only Ivy Yu quietly watched the entire scene. She suddenly burst into tears. Even knowing Chase Fu had betrayed her, even having anticipated everything that would happen, yet she still overestimated herself. She couldn't accept that the man who had deeply loved her, and whom she had deeply loved, could so desperately throw himself at another woman. Back when they were starting their business, the people around Chase Fu were a mixed bag, with many dubious friends trying to take him to clubs to experience the so-called world of glamorous women. But Chase Fu would rather offend people than go even once. He knelt on the ground and sincerely promised Ivy Yu, if a person has desires for everyone, they can't be called human, only a beast. At the time, Chase Fu even flirted with Ivy Yu in a slightly vulgar manner. What's more, I do have desires, but they can only rise for you. Ivy Yu blushed and hit him with her hand, but it was also from that moment on, no matter what occasion Chase Fu attended, she felt completely at ease with him. Now, Chase Fu has repeatedly shattered that trust, all that love, all those vows. Chase Fu destroyed them with his own hands. She returned to the taxi in a daze, staring down at her phone. A message popped up on the screen, a confirmation from the hospital. MS, do you confirm your appointment for an abortion procedure at the hospital on June 15 at 2:00 p.m.? Ivy Yu tapped the confirmation button with tears in her eyes. It was already late at night when she returned home, burrowing under the covers. She finally couldn't hold back and called her mother, Mom. As soon as the word left her lips, all the grievances welled up in her heart. Ivy Yu instinctively wanted to cry, but afraid of worrying her mother, she forced the tears back. Yet a mother's intuition is strong, and Mrs. Yu quickly sensed something was wrong. What's the matter, Ivy? Are you upset about something? Ivy Yu opened her mouth, wanting to pour out everything, but forcefully held back. I just suddenly missed you and Dad. Can I come home on the 15th? Mother Yu was delighted. Oh, your dad heard that. He's already thinking about what dishes to make for you that day. Of course, Ivy is our precious baby. You can come home whenever you want. Ivy Yu burst into tears. Not long after hanging up the phone, she heard the sound of the door lock turning. After their intimate moment, Chase Fu and Nova Chen still remembered to shower and return home. He tiptoed over and embraced Ivy Yu, whispering softly, I love you. But as he raised his hand, he felt her face wet with tears. Chase Fu was startled, fumbling to turn on the desk lamp as he looked at Ivy Yu. Honey, are you feeling unwell? Let's go to the hospital now. Ivy Yu stopped him. As she gazed at Chase Fu's handsome face, she felt nothing but disgust. She wanted to slap him hard and scream hysterically, demanding to know why. But in the end, she restrained herself and only said with a trembling voice, Chase Fu, I dreamed that you cheated on me. Chapter 4. Chase Fu's heart instinctively panicked. He immediately refuted, how could that be? Honey, even if every other man in the world cheated, I wouldn't do such a thing. After speaking, he began self-reflecting again. I've asked the doctor, and during pregnancy, the influence of hormones can make expectant mothers feel insecure. Honey, I've been spending too little time with you lately. Coincidentally, the company has a team-building event the day after tomorrow. How about I take you out to relax? He held Ivy Yu tightly in his arms, his heart beating rapidly. Ivy Yu heard it all clearly. She wanted to ask whether Chase Fu was genuinely concerned for her or just worried about being caught cheating, but she couldn't bring herself to ask. On the day of the team-building event, Chase Fu and Ivy Yu appeared together, instantly drawing everyone's attention. He delegated all team-building matters to his secretary. While he wholeheartedly devoted himself to being a devoted husband, when Ivy Yu was thirsty, she didn't even need to speak. Chase Fu would immediately bring her a glass of warm water with a straw to her lips. When Ivy Yu ate cherries, Chase Fu would catch the pits she spat out directly with his hand. Even when Ivy Yu needed to use the restroom, Chase Fu would obediently wait outside the women's restroom. To outsiders, it seems like Chase Fu can't live without Ivy Yu. The female employees couldn't stop gossiping. Sigh, how many lifetimes of good karma must I accumulate to find such a wonderful husband? Mr. Fu's eyes are practically glued to his wife, Nova Chen. It's the company team building today. We've all brought our families. Where's your husband? Someone brought it up, and everyone turned their attention to Nova Chen. The same level of affection, the same financial capability, while everyone was accustomed to Chase Fu's wife-spoiling antics. They were all curious about Nova Chen's husband. Nova Chen forced a smile. He's not available today. Everyone was disappointed. We were really looking forward to seeing what your husband looks like. I wanted my own husband to learn from him and become a doting husband too. I wonder if Nova Chen's husband is as handsome as President Fu. Ivy Yu came out of the restroom and bumped right into Nova Chen. She muttered irritably, The young miss is so delicate, everyone's waiting for you. The crowd was stunned, though Nova Chen had always been domineering and arrogant, but everyone knows Ivy Yu is Chase Fu's Achilles heel. How could she be so brainless? One of the employees quietly tugged at Nova Chen. Are you crazy, Secretary Chen? Hurry up and apologize to Mrs. Fu. Nova Chen stiffened her neck and remained silent. Before Ivy Yu could speak, Chase Fu immediately snapped, Nova Chen, hand over the project you're following to Xiao Wang. And this month's performance bonus will be deducted. Nova Chen widened her eyes, staring at Chase Fu in disbelief. Chase Fu ignored her, straightened Ivy Yu's clothes gently, and said softly, Honey, let's go. Ivy Yu remained silent. Out of the corner of her eye, she caught Nova Chen staring fixedly at Chase Fu, silently shedding tears. The company was staying at a renowned 5-star hotel. Ivy Yu woke up in the middle of the night, reaching out to the bed. She found the other side cold and empty, long since deserted. Ivy Yu's lower abdomen ached faintly. She got out of bed, pondered for a moment, and turned on the dashcam. Just then, she happened to hear voices. Nova Chen giggled coquettishly while letting out a sultry moan. Chase, you finally remembered me. You were so harsh with me during the day. I've been upset all day. Chase Fu's low, ragged breaths came in waves. He seemed to suddenly exert force, forcing Nova Chen to beg for mercy before coldly stating, You crossed the line today, Nova Chen. I made it clear to you from the very beginning we can play, but you don't bring my wife into this, otherwise, we're done. Nova Chen's voice immediately softened. She clung to Chase Fu, her cries fragmented beyond recognition, tinged with a sob. I was just jealous. Chase, I envy Ivy Yu. I envy that she can have your love. Chase Fu's tone also softened. Don't cry. You mentioned you liked that apartment in the second ring road the other day, right? I'll buy it for you. Nova Chen, I love you, but I hope you won't make things difficult for me. Nova Chen immediately stopped crying and making a scene. She murmured happily, with Chase's words, Even if I have to be your secret lover for the rest of my life, I'm willing. She once again hooked Chase Fu, sparking a new wave of passion. The intertwining of gasps and moans had a tremendous impact on Ivy Yu. She had long been crying too hard to speak a single word. I love you. The words I love you that Chase Fu said to Nova Chen were like someone taking a knife and directly slicing open Chase Fu and Ivy Yu's marriage, revealing the truth and letting a swarm of worms crawl out. Ivy Yu suddenly understood why a female celebrity she once admired had become a completely different person after marriage and uttered the words. In the end, it was just like that. It turns out that sincerity is both rare and fleeting. Ivy Yu only felt a tearing pain in her lower abdomen. She rolled off the bed, feeling as if her entire body had been split by an axe, and with the last ounce of willpower, crawled toward the door. Just as she opened the door, a passing female employee was startled. Mrs. Fu, oh my God. Ivy Yu gave the woman a grateful glance before collapsing unconscious. Chapter 5. When she woke up, Ivy Yu was already lying in a private hospital room. Chase Fu sat beside her, nodding off intermittently, but immediately woke up when he noticed Ivy Yu stirring. Darling. He let out a startled cry, then met Ivy Yu's calm gaze and gradually regained his composure. His eyes were filled with self-reproach. Honey, it's all my fault. I was hungry and went to the buffet downstairs. I never thought it would almost lead to disaster. Ivy Yu sneered inwardly. Hungry? Wasn't it just hunger? Knowing that booking another room would arouse suspicion among the staff, they simply opted for car sex. Chase Fu truly keeps surpassing my expectations of him. Chase Fu remains completely unaware. Darling, hit me. Chase Fu gently stroked Ivy Yu's hand, then set it down with deep regret before slapping himself across the face. I should have stayed by your side every moment. If I had been in the room at the time, this wouldn't have happened. It's all my fault. Ivy Yu didn't respond, only lowering her gaze to glance at her abdomen. What about the baby? Chase Fu's eyes brightened again. The baby is fine. The doctor said the spotting was caused by extreme emotional fluctuations. Honey, maybe I shouldn't have brought you out. You don't seem very happy. He pulled out another protective charm and pressed it into Ivy Yu's hand. Darling, I went up the mountain early this morning specifically to get this for you. I hope our precious IVU stays healthy and safe. I'm going to spoil you for the rest of our lives. IVU stared into Chase Fu's eyes. For a moment, she wanted to lay everything out on the table, to demand why Chase Fu's acting was so convincing. But she was tired. Just then, Chase Fu's phone rang. He glanced at it and immediately hung up. But the caller persistently continued to dial. Finally, Chase Fu apologized to her, stood up, and went out to answer the call. After that, he never came back. IVU pulled out the 4-drip and silently followed him. Unexpectedly, after just 2 steps, Chase Fu stopped. Nova Chen caressed her belly, leaning into Chase Fu's arms with a face full of smiles. Chase, we're going to have our own baby too. IVU heard it all clearly. Boom. At that moment, IVU almost couldn't stand. The nurse beside her was startled and immediately stepped forward to support IVU. What's wrong? Where are the family members? Chase Fu turned around and happened to meet IVU's gaze. He frantically pushed Nova Chen aside, rushed over to help IVU up, and said guiltily, "Honey, why did you come out? Do you need to use the restroom?" Noticing IVU staring intently at Nova Chen, he nervously explained, "This is Nova Chen, my female secretary. You just woke up not long ago. And she happened to be diagnosed with pregnancy too. Her husband is my business partner. He just called and asked me to look after her. Honey, don't overthink it." IVU turned a deaf ear. She simply stared at the pregnancy test report in Nova Chen's hand and asked softly, "How long has it been since conception?" Nova Chen smiled sweetly, her eyes carrying a hint of provocation and triumph. "The doctor said it's been almost 50 days. It's all my fault. I've been so busy these past 2 months that I didn't even notice whether my period came or not, but my husband said that as compensation, not only would he let me max out his credit card, but he'd also take a month off specifically to accompany me. 50 days. IVU closed her eyes. If Chase Fu hadn't been holding her, she might have collapsed on the spot. Her child with Chase Fu was only 33 days old, that is to say, before Chase Fu got intimate with her. He had just gotten out of Nova Chen's bed. Even after the child was born, Nova Chen's child was older than her own. In a daze, IVU caught a glimpse of something in Nova Chen's hand. Upon closer inspection, it was a talisman. "What else does IVU not understand?" she replied politely. "Congratulations indeed." Then, without showing any emotion, she withdrew her hand from Chase Fu's arm and silently returned to the hospital room. As soon as she lay down, she received a message from Nova Chen. "You already know, don't you? The child is Chase's. IVU, I'm not like you, so selfish, wanting to keep Chase all to yourself. I just want a sliver of his affection. Besides, my child was born earlier than yours and has the same inheritance rights. When the time comes, your child will have to call mine an older brother or sister." Chase Fu happened to walk into the ward. IVU turned off her phone. Chase Fu remained completely unaware and eagerly showed IVU his shopping cart. Almost all of them are maternal and infant products, along with a pile of children's toys. Chase Fu smiled warmly. "Honey, which one should we pick? Maybe I should just buy them all. I'm determined to make our child the happiest in the world." IVU remained silent. She stared at Chase Fu's brows and eyes, momentarily unable to discern whether he was genuinely happy for their child or for Nova Chen's child. IVU couldn't help but ask, "Chase Fu, are you really that excited about our child?" Chapter 6. Without hesitation, Chase Fu replied, "Of course. The child born to my beloved wife. If I don't look forward to it, who will? Let me tell you, I plan to buy a bigger villa with a dedicated nursery room. That way, by the time our child is born, the formaldehyde will have dissipated, and all the toys will be ready." Chase Fu's eyes sparkled with anticipation. Coming to his senses, he affectionately rubbed his nose against IVU's. "Honey, thank you. You've worked hard during this time. I'll strive to be the perfect husband, taking care of you in every possible way." IVU remained silent. After returning from the company team-building event, Chase Fu became even more attentive. He often cancelled company meetings just to spend more time with IVU. His actions were quite obvious, making it hard to hide from outsiders. Everyone understood, though, especially netizens, who jokingly teased that Chase Fu had indeed transformed into a devoted husband and doting father. But only Ivy knew that his heart wasn't fully in it. In the morning, Chase Fu accompanied Ivy for a walk. Half an hour later, he left, citing overtime work at the company as the reason. Ivyu's phone would receive a text message from Nova Chen, showing Chase Fu and Nova Chen's hands intertwined. Do you really think Chase is wholeheartedly devoted to you? In places you don't know about, he's been quietly by my side all along. At noon, Chase Fu prepared lunch for Ivy. Yet, half an hour later, Ivyu's phone received another text message from Nova Chen. So what if you're the official wife? I can still enjoy meals just as good as yours, also personally cooked by Chase. In the evening, Chase Fu had promised to accompany Ivy to sleep, so before returning home, he would have intimate moments with Nova Chen. Several times, Ivy received photos from Nova Chen, Chase Fu lying shirtless under the covers, embracing an equally naked woman. There were still 2 bite marks engraved on Chase Fu's neck. Nova Chen's provocative caption read, "Your man, my exclusive." Ivy silently saved it without a word, until the day of the 15th approached. Early in the morning, Ivy said to Chase Fu, "I want to go back to the university for a visit." Ivy and Chase Fu met in the year they graduated from graduate school. They studied different majors but got to know each other through the same advisor. When they got married, their advisor even gave a speech at their wedding. Ivy thought that one should always finish what they start, whether in life or in work. Even if they were to part ways, she should make things clear with Chase Fu, consider it as honoring all those years of friendship. Chase Fu's hand paused for a moment. He agreed without hesitation. "No problem, honey." He personally drove the car and had just arrived at the school gate when the phone suddenly rang. Chase Fu only glanced at the number before immediately getting out of the car to answer it. A moment later, he looked at Ivy with deep apology. "Honey, there's an urgent matter at the company. I need to go back for a bit. Could you wait for me at the school first?" At the same time, Ivy received abusive messages from Nova Chen on her phone. "What gives you the right to monopolize Chase? He should be here with me right now." It's hard to describe the feeling at that moment. Disappointed. "I've been disappointed for a long time." Ivy nodded calmly at him and got out of the car directly. Chase Fu watched her leave. Strangely, Chase Fu had done such things thousands of times before, but this time, he felt inexplicably uneasy. He couldn't figure out the reason. But the life-or-death phone calls kept coming, forcing him to rush to the appointment. Ivy arrived at the school's campus wall. Chase Fu was the most prominent alumnus of that year, and his portrait still hangs there. Youthful yet handsome, just like the young man who had once loved him with all his heart. Ivy gazed at the photo and whispered softly, "Chase Fu, our fate ends here." Then, she turned and walked away resolutely. She took a taxi to the hospital, arriving precisely at 2 in the afternoon. Lying on the cold operating table, she spoke to the fetus in her womb one last time. "I'm sorry, baby. Mom was really looking forward to your arrival. But she believes bringing you into this world knowing your father has already betrayed us would be irresponsible to you. Goodbye, baby." She silently shed tears. An hour later, Ivy woke up with a pale face. Her body was still weak. The fetus that shared her bloodline had been crushed and removed. But her mind was clear. Taking out her phone, Nova Chen was still provocatively sending messages. It seems Chase Fu hasn't been able to extricate himself from her yet. Ivy then returned to the villa with peace of mind, took out the documents she had prepared long ago, opened the envelope, and placed the abortion consent form inside. After one last glance at this place called home, she turned and left. She would never come back again. Chapter 7. Bang! Chase Fu's heart suddenly skipped a beat, and the water glass in his hand fell to the ground. What's going on? He felt a sense of helplessness, as if he was about to lose a treasure. Chase Fu instinctively reached for his phone. Only when he saw the time did he realize he had stood Ivy up. He had originally promised to revisit their university campus with Ivy, but now, he had wasted an entire day on Nova Chen, neglecting his wife. This wasn't appropriate. Chase Fu stood up and turned to leave. Nova Chen, who had been waiting for Chase Fu to feed her the ginseng chicken soup, was taken aback by his sudden movement and hurriedly went after him. "Why are you leaving so suddenly?" Chase, facing Nova Chen, Chase Fu never bothered to sugarcoat his words and explained bluntly, "I've spent too much time with you. You will get suspicious. Be good and stay here. I need to go back." Hearing that Chase Fu was leaving to be with Yu, Nova Chen was filled with resentment. She held her belly, her eyes red. "Then go ahead." Seeing this, Chase Fu had no choice but to stop. "What's wrong now?" Nova Chen's voice choked with sobs. "I know Yu is very important to you. And I never dared to imagine I could replace her. But, Chase, I hope you can spend more time with me and our child. Yu has servants to take care of her, and her parents too. I have none of these. I only have you, Chase." Nova Chen lowered her head, tears hung on her eyelashes, making her look pitifully delicate. Chase Fu sighed. He had initially been drawn to Nova Chen precisely because of this very demeanor, having lost both parents in her youth. She had worked her way into Chase Fu's company after graduating from college through sheer determination. She was tenacious, full of vitality, and unafraid to fight for what she wanted, a completely different feeling from Yu. In the end, Chase Fu's heart softened. He sent Yu a message, "Honey, there's urgent work at the company and I'll be working late. Don't wait for me for dinner, go to bed early. I love you." Still no response was received. Chase Fu felt somewhat irritated. Nova Chen seemed to notice and leaned on Chase Fu's shoulder, giving him a quick peck on the cheek. She comforted him, saying, "You stood them up, so it's normal for them to be a little upset. If something had happened, the servant would have called you long ago." Chase Fu felt relieved. He placed his phone on the table, then turned and tapped Nova Chen's nose lightly. "You're the clever one." Nova Chen beamed with a smile. Chase Fu abruptly changed the subject, however. "What's between us must never reach Yu's ears. Do whatever you want, but if Yu finds out, I won't want either you or the child in your belly." Nova Chen was startled. She remembered sending a provocative text to Yu just 5 minutes ago, suddenly feeling guilty, but facing Chase Fu's probing gaze, she pretended nothing was wrong, even putting on a pitiful expression. Whispering, "Chase, I love you, so I won't put you in a difficult position, but I also don't want you to doubt me." Chase Fu pulled her into his arms. The two embraced quietly. After a moment, Chase Fu released her, his hand mischievously slipping under Nova Chen's clothes as he whispered, "The doctor said, how many months before we can be intimate?" Nova Chen's ears turned bright red. She half-heartedly pushed against Chase Fu's chest, feigning anger as she scolded, "Chase, you pervert. The doctor said, 3 months, just bear with it for now. In 3 months, I'll let you understand everything clearly." Chase Fu was feeling a bit distracted, afraid of losing control. He quickly picked up the chicken soup and headed to the kitchen, explaining, "The soup has gone cold, let me heat it up for you. Stay on the sofa and don't move." He turned on the stove. The warm flames suddenly leaped up with a whoosh. He pulled out his phone again. The message he had sent still hadn't received a reply. This was very unusual. Yu is not a full-time housewife in the true sense. She has her own work to attend to, but the workload isn't heavy enough to justify not answering calls or replying to messages. Could she really be angry? Chase Fu pondered to himself and called his secretary. "Send the new SV collection necklace to my home." After a moment's hesitation, he quickly glanced at Nova Chen, who was leaning on the sofa, and added, "Send another portion to the office. I need to give it to a client." Chapter 8. By the time he got home, it was already midnight, the servants had long left, and the living room was pitch black. Chase Fu lowered his head and sniffed the scent on his body. Nova Chen loves to wear perfume, every time he would take a shower to erase the traces she left on him. Only after confirming everything was in order would he tiptoe upstairs. Opening the door, the bedroom remained pitch black. Chase Fu suddenly realized something was wrong. Click, he flipped the switch, and the spacious bedroom was instantly illuminated by the light. Empty. Yu is nowhere to be seen. It's already 11 p.m., and Yu keeps a regular schedule. There's no way she would be out at this hour. Where could she have gone? Chase Fu immediately hurried downstairs, grabbed the car keys, and was about to rush out. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught sight of 2 documents on the dining table. The top one was clearly written in black and white, divorce agreement. Chase Fu's heart skipped a beat. It was just a few steps away. Yet he stumbled and crawled his way to the dining table, grabbing the document to examine it closely. It was indeed a divorce agreement. In the agreement, the lawyer had clearly divided the assets between Chase Fu and IVU, 50-50, as if to sever all bonds between them. Below it was still signed with IVU's name, delicate, yet resolute. Chase Fu's hands trembled as he took out his phone and dialed IVU's number. The first time, no answer. The second time, no answer. Chase Fu felt nothing but dizziness. He had never anticipated such a situation, so when he actually faced it, he was completely stunned. Why? Just this morning when they left home, IVU was smiling and made plans with him to visit the university campus. Yet in just one day, she wants a divorce. Chase Fu's hand loosened its grip. Divorce papers were scattered all over the floor, revealing a second document, post-abortion care instructions. Bang! Chase Fu felt as if he had been punched in the face, unable to regain his composure for a long time. Abortion. Their child was only 40 days old. He was still immersed in the joy of becoming a father when IVU aborted their child. Confusion and helplessness, mixed with a hint of anger, surged in his heart. Why did IVU treat him like this? Could it be that IVU discovered something before leaving? Chase Fu immediately called Nova Chen. As soon as the call connected, he anxiously demanded, "Nova Chen, tell me the truth, did you tell IVU about what happened between us?" Nova Chen had just fallen asleep, her voice laced with drowsiness. Faced with the sudden barrage of accusations, she snapped awake instantly. The words caught in her throat for a moment before she quickly covered up, saying, "Chase, you told me I absolutely must not let IVU know about this. How could I possibly tell her? What happened?" "Chase, don't panic yet." Chase Fu let out a sigh of relief. Nova Chen had always been obedient to her. She couldn't possibly do such a thing, so she brushed it off, saying, "It's nothing, just a quarrel. You should rest early." With that, she hung up the phone immediately, not giving Nova Chen a chance to ask further. Chase Fu called the family maid, Aunt Lee, again to inquire. And only then did he learn that IVU had dug out all her documents in the morning and seemed to have booked a plane ticket. Aunt Lee said, "I heard her calling her parents a couple of days ago, maybe she was missing them." Returning to her parents' home, Chase Fu immediately sensed that something was seriously wrong. He immediately sent someone to check IVU's itinerary, praying that he could still catch up with her. But just at that moment, Chase Fu received a message. It was from a friend at the Traffic Management Bureau, his voice trembling. "Brother Fu, I need to tell you something. This afternoon, there was a car accident on the Huhuan Expressway. 9 vehicles were involved in a chain collision, and one of them seemed to have your wife in it. I asked my colleagues on site, and the situation isn't looking good." Chase Fu's phone suddenly fell to the ground. Chapter 9, Patient number 028, IVU, please proceed to the pharmacy to collect your medication. IVU clutched the bandage on her arm, hissing through gritted teeth. Although treated promptly, the wound was deep, and blood continued to seep through the bandage. Here, a pair of slender, bony hands held out a medicine bag, offering it to IVU. "Take the oral medicine 3 times a day, and change the topical dressing once daily." IVU quickly reached out to take it. She was immensely grateful. "Thank you, Zeke Chin. If you hadn't been right beside me to steer the wheel and help me avoid the collision, I'd probably be lying in the morgue by now." Recalling the car accident, IVU still feels a lingering fear. In the afternoon, she took a taxi onto the Huhuan Expressway, preparing to head to the airport. But as they passed a fork in the road, a large truck behind them suddenly lost control and crashed straight into the vehicles ahead. The first car was instantly crushed into a thin sheet, then came the second. The third. IVU was in the 5th car ahead. The originally drowsy taxi driver was instantly stunned by this sudden turn of events. He didn't even have time to react. The black Bentley next to IVU immediately swerved, crashing through the guardrail alongside the taxi to avoid the fatal collision with the truck. After the incident, IVU realized that her savior was her father's former student, Zeke Chin. Zeke Chin had 2 scrapes on his forehead, but they did nothing to diminish his handsomeness. He wore a black trench coat, exuding an icy aura from head to toe, yet he managed to rein it in perfectly when facing IVU. "Ouch." IVU felt a sharp, throbbing pain in her arm, making it impossible for her to sit still. In the end, she couldn't hold back any longer and let out a soft cry of pain. Zeke Chin immediately bent down, noticing the blood seeping through IVU's bandage, furrowed his brows, and called a nurse to unwrap and redress it. After the nurse left, he poured IVU a cup of warm water and watched as she slowly drank it. Throughout this process, even he himself didn't realize just how attentive and fervent his actions and gaze had been, until the phone rang. It was IVU's parents calling. One ring after another, very urgent. Only then did IVU remember. She had booked a flight for 8 p.m. By all accounts, she should have already landed at the airport there by this time. I narrowly escaped a fatal car accident and was injured. I've been so busy until now that I haven't had time to explain the situation to my parents. After answering the phone, IVU first reassured her parents, then, she tried to downplay the severity of the accident as much as possible while explaining the situation to them. But my parents weren't so easily fooled. Moreover, the 7-car pileup on the Shanghai Ring Expressway was truly horrifying, sparking discussions across the entire internet. 11 people died, and dozens were injured. My mother broke down in tears over the phone. Ivy, don't lie to us. We're booking flights to come over right now. No, no, no. Her parents were getting older, and Ivy couldn't bear to see them traveling back and forth. Moreover, she had already made up her mind to divorce Chase Fu. With matters still unresolved, she didn't want her parents coming here and getting involved in this marriage hastily. After a moment of thought, her gaze fell on Zeke Chin. She had an idea in mind. Ivy handed the phone to Zeke Chin, carefully mouthing the words, "Help me explain this, please." Zeke Chin was taken aback, staring into Ivyu's sparkling eyes. His heart suddenly softened. He then took the phone. Ivy was deeply impressed by Zeke Chin, not only because he was the most accomplished student under her father's tutelage, but also because of his character. Father Yu always said that Zeke Chin came from a respectable family and was an upright man. Any girl who married him in the future would never suffer the slightest grievance. Therefore, his words carried significant weight in Father Yu's heart. Knowing that his student was by his daughter's side, Father Yu felt reassured. After repeatedly confirming Ivyu's injuries, his tone softened. "Zeke Chin, it's been a long time since I last saw you. You and Ivy should come back together. It'll be a good chance for us to catch up." Ivy wanted to decline on Zeke Chin's behalf. When he took her to the hospital, he still managed to answer a few business calls. Clearly busy with work, Zeke Chin saved her again. She didn't want to impose on others. Unexpectedly, Zeke Chin agreed without hesitation, smiling and saying, "Then I'll change my flight to tomorrow morning and go back with Ivy." This time, it was Ivyu's turn to be stunned. Chapter 10. Where's my wife? Where's my wife? Just moments ago, Zeke Chin had taken Ivy away from the hospital, planning to make do with a hotel near the airport for the night. Right behind, Chase Fu rushed to the hospital in a hurry. Along the way, he ran red lights, sped, and practically collected every possible traffic ticket in one go. When he arrived panting and out of breath, he couldn't find Ivy anywhere. He had no choice but to grab the arm of a passing nurse and, without even catching his breath, urgently asked, "Where's my wife? Have you seen my wife?" The nurse looked helpless. "Sir, I understand how you feel, but you need to tell me, what is your wife's name?" Chase Fu quickly replied, "Ivy, you as in remaining, Nyan as in New Year." The nurse flipped through the report, then looked up at Chase Fu with sympathy and pity in her eyes. "Sir, please accept my condolences. The vehicle your wife was in suffered the most severe damage, and she passed away on the way to the hospital. The body is currently in the morgue, if it's convenient for you. I can take you there now." Buzz. At that moment, Chase Fu felt as if he had been detached from this world. Otherwise, how could he not understand what the nurse was saying? He clearly recognized every word, so why couldn't he comprehend them when strung together into a sentence? In a panic, Chase Fu immediately knelt down. Hey hey hey. This startled the nurse quite a bit, and also shocked his friend Pei Yu, who had rushed over upon hearing the news, quickly supporting him. "Brother Fu, calm down right now." Chase Fu wanted to calm down. He had always appeared elegant and composed in front of the media, but now he could only manage a smile that looked worse than tears. Morgue. How could his Ivy be in the morgue? Just this morning, he had promised to relive their college days with Ivy. Why? Is this heaven's punishment for him breaking his promise? Chase Fu grabbed Pei Yu's hand, murmuring to himself, Pei Yu, tell me quickly, did I just hear wrong? Pei Yu had no choice but to accept the situation. He also heard it clearly. Ivy had been sent to the morgue, which meant there was absolutely no chance of survival. He could only console, Brother Fu, the deceased is gone. Chase Fu was like a walking corpse, numbly supported by Pei Yu. He followed the nurse to the door of the morgue, where a chilling cold seeped out from within. The nurse sighed and said, Go in. Pei Yu helped Chase Fu, who was almost limp like a pile of mud, inside. The icy air enveloped the two, mixed with a faint, unpleasant odor that was the smell of death. Chase Fu knelt beside the stretcher, tears streaming down his face, his hands trembling as he slowly lifted the white cloth. At that moment, all his memories flashed through his mind like a revolving lantern. He regretted it. If he hadn't left Ivy to accompany Nova Chen, would Ivy not have aborted the child? Would she not have encountered this car accident? Would she not have lost her life here? It's all his fault. He really deserves to die. Why is it not him lying here, but his beloved Ivy instead? But when the white cloth was completely removed, it revealed an unfamiliar face. Chase Fu didn't react immediately. Pei Yu beside him, however, swiftly picked up the file that had fallen to the side and said decisively, Brother Fu, don't be upset. The nurse made a mistake. This isn't your wife. Look, aside from sharing the same name, there's nothing else in common. The nurse, hearing their doubts, quickly checked the electronic system for verification. After confirming there was no mistake, she repeatedly apologized to Chase Fu and Pei Yu. I'm sorry, it was my error. Your loved one shares the same name as the deceased. She was indeed on the list of those involved in the car accident, but she only sustained minor injuries and had already left the hospital with her family not long ago. Perhaps you could try contacting her again. Pei Yu was like a drowning man pulled ashore, gasping for breath as he covered his eyes with his hand and muttered to himself, thank goodness, my Ivy is still alive. Just then, his phone rang. Nova Chen called him, her voice full of grievance. Chase, I'm not feeling well. Can you come and stay with me? Ivy was still missing. Chase Fu had absolutely no intention of comforting Nova Chen, so he coldly said, Nova Chen, if you're not feeling well, go to the hospital. I'm not a doctor, I can't help you. Nova Chen froze. Chase, how could you? But before she could finish, Chase Fu had already hung up the phone without hesitation. Under Pei Yu's astonished and probing gaze, he called his secretary and ordered, find out Ivy's whereabouts as soon as possible. Yes, early in the morning, Zeke Qin drove Ivy to the airport. The accident on the Huhuan Expressway yesterday afternoon caused severe traffic congestion in many areas, so they got up early to avoid missing their flight. Ivy sat in the passenger seat. She gazed at the scenery outside the window, watching the sun slowly rise. Lost in thought, Zeke Qin chatted with her intermittently as they passed by a sports stadium. Ivy suddenly fell silent, staring blankly at the massive spherical structure. Zeke Qin asked in confusion, what's wrong? Ivy let out a light laugh. She turned to look at Zeke Qin, then pointed at the gymnasium and said frankly, that's where I got married. She simply felt nostalgic. When they got married, Chase Fu held a grand wedding ceremony. Countless friends and the media witnessed their happiness. Under the witness of their university mentor, Chase Fu put a ring on her finger, making a promise to never betray her for a lifetime. What was she thinking at that time? She thought she would also have a love as beautiful as her parents. Chase Fu's love was something she could proudly show off. Yet this sincerity gradually faded with the passage of time. Chase Fu still treated her well, but his heart no longer belonged to her alone. He has other women, and will soon have other children. Seeing this familiar gymnasium again, gleaming under the sunlight, it somehow carried an inexplicable sense of melancholy, as if everything had changed except the place itself. Ivy murmured to herself, but I'm getting a divorce now, so there's no point in bringing this up. Zeke Qin stepped on the brake, gradually slowing down as he turned onto the ramp. This time, he turned his head to look at IVU and couldn't help but ask, why? Realizing his tone was urgent, he quickly explained, what I mean is, you and your husband seem to have a good relationship. Why the sudden divorce? IVU composed herself and sighed helplessly. Because of infidelity. Zeke Chin froze. Cheating, IVU explained. Chase Fu treats me very well, but that doesn't stop him from keeping a lover outside. During holidays, we receive identical gifts. Chase Fu's day is equally divided between us. Even the child, you might not believe it, but the child in that lover's belly is actually half a month older than mine. Zeke Chin suddenly clenched his fist. He fell into a long silence until he heard soft sobbing coming from inside the car. It's IVU. She tried her best to suppress her sobs, her gaze fixed tightly on the gymnasium until it disappeared from view. Only then did she speak, half relieved and half regretful. I thought I would have a marriage that lasts a lifetime, just like my parents. Unfortunately, it's impossible now, Zeke Chin whispered. I'm sorry for bringing up your painful memories. IVU shook her head. The tear stains on her face didn't make her look disheveled. Instead, they added a touch of heartbreaking beauty. IVU said, this is nothing. In the end, it's something we have to face. Zeke Chin remained silent. Upon arriving at the airport, the two waited in the VIP lounge. IVU took small sips of her hot tea. She had suffered a miscarriage at noon yesterday and injured her arm in the afternoon, leaving her body extremely weak. Now, she was completely exhausted. With some time still left before boarding, drowsiness gradually took over, and IVU leaned on Zeke Chin's shoulder, nodding off intermittently like a pecking chick. Zeke Chin gently pulled her closer. Only then did IVU truly rest her head on Zeke Chin's shoulder and fall into a deep sleep. Zeke Chin gazed at IVU's sleeping face. Traces of tears still lingered on both cheeks. His heart was weighed down by immense anger and confusion. Why was Chase Fu luckier than him? Yet chose to betray his relationship with IVU, such a wonderful IVU, the IVU he longed for but had to let go. Yet she was betrayed by Chase Fu. Zeke Chin took out his phone and messaged his secretary. For the land that Changhong Group has been eyeing recently, increase the budget by 2% and take it directly. Dad, Mom. After getting off the plane, IVU was like a bird freed from its cage, excitedly rushing toward her parents. I missed you so much, mister. You carefully avoided the wound on IVU's hand, gently holding his daughter in his arms and murmuring, you've lost weight. How did you get even thinner? Yu's mother wiped her tears beside her. The usually gentle woman now laughed through her tears. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back, she then teased. Your dad has been busy since early morning, preparing a whole table of delicious dishes, afraid you'd be hungry, waiting for you to come home and eat. Yay. IVU cheered with great enthusiasm. Father Yu then looked at Zeke Chin, his eyes filled with gratitude. Ivy told me everything. Without you, we old folks would have lost half our lives. Zeke Chin quickly waved his hand. Teacher, it's all in the past. The group returned home. IVU buried her head in her meal, savoring the familiar taste, her eyes stinging as tears threatened to fall. On the way back, she had already noticed, her parents' hair had turned completely white. And their movements were no longer as agile as before. They had grown old. She's not filial. She should visit home more often. Father Yu remained completely unaware, still busy putting food on his daughter's plate. Eat more. Ivy, you used to have some flesh on your face. How did you get so thin now? Is that Chase Fu boy treating you poorly? Ivy Yu paused her hand while scooping rice. Mother Yu, still unaware, patted Father Yu in annoyance. Our daughter is pregnant. Don't give her those fishy foods. Father Yu suddenly understood. He quickly moved several seafood dishes away and served Ivy Yu some lighter dishes instead. Ivy Yu saw it all and felt even worse inside. She didn't intend to hide it from her parents, so she exchanged a glance with Zeke Chin. Zeke Chin tactfully stood up, using the excuse of getting more rice to leave the dining table. Ivy Yu put down her chopsticks and spoke earnestly. Dad, Mom, Chase Fu and I are getting a divorce. Father and Mother Yu's hands suddenly froze. Ivy Yu continued, and there's no need to worry about the child. I already had an abortion at the hospital yesterday. Mother Yu's tears fell instantly. She pulled Ivy Yu into her arms and said with heartache, "That must have been so painful." Father Yu remained silent for a long while, hesitating to speak. He nearly stared a hole through the food in his bowl. After a long pause, he finally asked slowly, "Ivy, you're already an adult. Mom and Dad know you must have thought long and hard before making this decision. But we need to know the reason." Ivy Yu answered honestly, "Because Chase Fu cheated on me." She explained the whole story of how she discovered Chase Fu's infidelity. Father Yu slammed the table in anger and stood up. "That bastard Chase Fu, how did he promise us back then? And now he actually, he clutched his chest in fury. How could he not be angry? Back then, it was Ivy Yu's father who personally walked her down the long red carpet, handing his daughter over to Chase Fu. With tears in his eyes, he said, "Chase Fu, I trust you. I know you will take good care of my daughter." But times have changed. Now, the one who hurts his daughter the most is none other than Chase Fu himself. This filled him with immense regret. Why couldn't he see clearly back then? If only he had observed longer, perhaps his daughter wouldn't have been hurt. Zeke Chin heard the commotion and hurried out from the kitchen. He helped Father Yu sit down and was just about to speak to break the awkward silence when he heard the news broadcast from the TV. "I love my wife dearly, which is why I named this product Sinian, yearning for years." Zeke Chin looked up. Father Yu enjoyed watching the news while eating. Now, the television is on. Replaying the news from the day of Changhong Group's new product launch, Chase Fu said affectionately in front of the camera, "I'd rather be called a wife's slave, as long as she's happy, then everything I'm busy with is worth it." Without a second thought, Father Yu grabbed a pair of chopsticks and threw them. Unbiased and impartial, it hit Chase Fu's face right on the television screen. How ironic, showing deep affection in front of the camera, yet in real life. It doesn't stop him from keeping a mistress. That hypocritical face is truly disgusting. Zeke Chin lowered his eyes, concealing his displeasure and indifference, then walked over to turn off the television. Click, everyone snapped out of their daze at the sound of the switch button. Ivy Yu was the first to speak. "Mom and Dad, getting a divorce was the right choice for me. You should be happy for me." Only then did Father Yu realize he had lost his composure. Mother Yu sighed. "We support whatever decision you make. Your father and I just feel sorry for you." Zeke Chin poured a cup of hot tea for Ivy Yu's parents and served dishes to Ivy Yu. Only after seeing everyone eating normally did he resume using his chopsticks, thinking quietly to himself, in truth, he also felt heartache for Ivy Yu. Therefore, he wanted to make Chase Fu unhappy. After dinner, Zeke Chin went to the garden, where his secretary reported work to him via a remote meeting. "Mr. Chin, we successfully secured that piece of land. However, Mr. Fu from Changhong Group has repeatedly tried to request a meeting with you." Zeke Chin replied coldly, "Reject it." The secretary, displaying considerable professionalism, continued to explain, "According to the investigation, Changhong Group can only acquire land in Hudong at twice the current price." Zeke Chin nodded. "That's exactly the effect we want." Yu's parents were reluctant to add negative emotions to their daughter. After the meal, not a word was mentioned about the divorce. Even with a heavy heart, Old Man Yu only dared to curse quietly to his wife during the brief moment when Ivy Yu went upstairs. "That Chase Fu, if he dares to harass my daughter again, I'll throw caution to the wind and chase him out with a stick, even if it costs me my dignity." Before he could finish, "Mrs. Yu jabbed him in the ribs." Zeke Chin had volunteered to clear the dishes and had just stepped out of the kitchen. Old Man Yu had been completely absorbed in his daughter's affairs until now. Only now did he realize it was getting late, so he invited Zeke Chin to stay the night. Zeke Chin couldn't have asked for more. His gaze fell on a few simple sketches hanging in the hallway. They looked childish, completely out of place compared to the mature and elegant furniture and decor. "Mrs. Yu noticed his gaze and smiled at the corner of her mouth. "This was painted by our Ivy." Zeke Chin listened attentively. When it came to Ivy Yu, Mrs. Yu couldn't stop talking. Ivy loved to draw since she was little. Back then, her father was very thin. He would come home from work and fall asleep on the sofa. Ivy drew him as a monkey lying on the sofa. "Oh my, You wouldn't believe how lifelike it was. Her father still remembers it clearly to this day. Zeke Chin listened attentively as Mrs. You chatted about trivial matters, committing every detail to heart. Ivy you hadn't rested well. So whether it was Zeke Chin or Ivy's parents, everyone moved quietly up and down the stairs, but Ivy you still couldn't sleep. Lying in her own bed, surrounded by familiar decorations, she couldn't help but touch her stomach. There should have been a little life growing inside. Before discovering Chase Fu's infidelity, she had been eagerly looking forward to having a child with Chase Fu. It's best to have a daughter. This way, she can pass on the love inherited from her parents to her own daughter. Raise her with care, ensuring she lives as happily as she did. But now, everything is gone. Her stomach was empty, just like her heart shattered into pieces. As she was lost in thought, her phone rang once again. With just a glance, she was certain from the caller ID that it was Chase Fu calling. She blocked Chase Fu's phone number. Can't block others. This time, she didn't choose to hang up. Instead, she sat quietly in her chair, gazing out the window. Only when the phone rang for the last time did she finally answer the call. Chase Fu's frantic voice came through from the other end. Ivy, you finally picked up. You have no idea how worried I was when I heard you were in a car accident. I almost went crazy. Where are you now? Are you at your parents' house? Your husband is coming to pick you up right away. Ivy you listened quietly for a long time. Chase Fu mentioned the car accident, expressed concern for her health, and brought up his own parents, yet he deliberately avoided mentioning the two documents she had left on the table, a document called divorce agreement, a document called post-abortion care instructions. Ivy you suddenly felt somewhat exhausted. For the first time, she realized that Chase Fu had not only deceived her entirely but also intended to continue glossing over the truth. She couldn't understand. Chase Fu already had a lover, so why was he still so persistent with her? Was it love? But how can love be split in half and given to two people at the same time? Is that really called love? Ivy you didn't want to keep acting with him anymore. She calmly exposed him. Chase Fu. Only calling me now. Were you with Nova Chen earlier? Dead silence on the other end of the line. After a long silence, Chase Fu finally spoke in a hoarse voice. Ivy you, do you realize what you're saying? Ivy you took a deep breath. Of course I do. Otherwise, why would I choose to abort the child and leave that divorce agreement? Chase Fu, have you been acting for so long that you've started to believe your own performance? Chase Fu retorted. Ivy you cut off his explanation. Chase Fu, you know I can't tolerate anyone who betrays me. Chase Fu felt as if someone was choking him. He pleaded, it was just that one time. Ivy, Nova Chen, and I only made an exception once. Ivy you sneered. Then how did the 55-day-old child come about? Chase Fu was left speechless. After a moment, he said hoarsely, you even know about that? Ivy you said calmly. Chase Fu, I really can't be bothered to argue with you, but the facts are right in front of us. Why do you think deceiving yourself can cover it up? The divorce is inevitable. Chase Fu immediately retorted, impossible. Ivy, I can accept anything, but the one thing I cannot accept is divorcing you. Who's going to take care of you after you leave me? I truly love you. Are you at your parents' place now? I'll come find you. We need to talk some things through in person. A deep exhaustion washed over me. Ivy you sneered. Chase Fu, I won't see you. I left a divorce agreement and walked away, giving you all the dignity you deserve. Hope you know what's best for yourself. Chase Fu was still struggling. Ivy you, listen to me. Ivy you hung up the phone directly. She gazed at the tranquil scenery outside the window, her chest heaving heavily. She gradually steadied her breathing, yet remained deeply unsettled. She decided to simply go downstairs. Unexpectedly, she ran into Zeke Chin fetching water in the kitchen. He made a cup of honey water for Ivy you and watched her sip it slowly before asking gently, Ivy you, can't sleep. Would you like to talk with me? Ivy you and Zeke Chin sat on the rattan chairs on the terrace, gazing at the distant mountains. Ivy yu's mood didn't brighten. Instead, she spoke somewhat gloomily. Zeke Chin, am I really useless? Zeke Chin answered without hesitation. No. Ivy yu's pent-up grievances were stifled. She looked up in disbelief. Are you so certain? Zeke Chin nodded. Ivy yu lowered her head with a faint smile and then said, But do you know how the outside world evaluates me? They describe Chase Fu as a successful career man, a rare and devoted husband, but their evaluation of me is a lucky, pampered wife. Even just now, when I confronted Chase Fu, he kept insisting that without him, I wouldn't be able to survive. Since when did I fall into such a predicament? Even though I graduated from a prestigious 985 university, even though I have extensive research experience, and even after marriage, I've continued to work in my mentor's lab, their evaluation of me is still the pampered wife. Zeke Chin pondered for a moment before offering a thoughtful suggestion. I've reviewed your resume. The project currently under development at my company aligns perfectly with your research background. Would you like to join me? Ivy was caught off guard. Me, Zeke Chin nodded. He said earnestly, I've always believed that money and power are the best skincare for women. If you feel lost or unrecognized, why not take action and give it a try? Ivy locked eyes with Zeke Chin, his pupils blended into the night, intensely serious yet utterly convincing. Ivy nodded, okay. After completing the onboarding process in one day, Ivy bid farewell to her parents and headed to the company to clock in. Ivy is very strong. Her 985 academic background and outstanding research experience earned her the team's recognition. Even Ivy found herself powerless. Although she had been engaged in related experimental work after marriage, the intensity was low, and she lacked relevant understanding. After joining the team, she had been working hard to catch up with the progress. Meanwhile, Chase Fu didn't stop bombarding her with incessant messages. Not only that, but the methods have also gradually escalated. Chase Fu has accounts on all major social media platforms. One of them has accumulated quite a few followers, most of whom are female consumers. Since last night, Chase Fu has been frequently posting updates, fighting with my wife, missing her. My wife completely ignores me now, missing her. Honey, woo-woo, please talk to me. I know I was wrong. Every word and sentence, yet not a single mention of the affair, but rather simplifies and blurs the conflict between them into a minor mistake between lovers. As expected, Chase Fu quickly gained sympathy. Many netizens commented below, so even a CEO can feel helpless when he upsets his wife. Are we also part of your play? President Fu is usually so good to his wife. What issue could possibly require the silent treatment to resolve? If you ask me, she's just spoiled. I agree with the comment above, but then again, Mrs. Fu is President Fu's beloved little wife. It's not our place to say anything. Whether joking or serious, everyone takes it for granted that since Chase Fu is so wonderful, no matter what mistakes she makes, she should be forgiven. Ivy helplessly glanced at her phone. These days, Nova Chen has been sending provocative messages non-stop. Today has been especially crazy. Ivy, you bitch, since you're already divorcing Chase Fu, why can't you just let me have him? He forced me to abort the child. Are you happy now? Let me tell you, I won't let you have your way. I'll use this child to tie Chase down for good. Ivy felt utterly vexed. At this very moment, a few girls in the group whispered among themselves. Did you see the trending topic? Mrs. Fu, isn't that our senior Ivy? So our senior joined our team because she had a fight with her husband. Do you think she'll last long? I bet if Mr. Fu just sweet-talks her a little, she'll quit immediately and go back to being a full-time housewife. Sure, she's looking this way. A profound sense of helplessness washed over her. Again, the same old story. No matter how hard she worked for her career, no matter how outstanding her personal abilities were, but just a few words from Chase Fu, everyone naturally assumed she would yield to Chase Fu's deep affection. But that wasn't what she wanted. Just then, her phone chimed twice. It's Zeke Chin. Come to the fire escape. Ivy composed herself, pushed open the door to the fire escape, and was greeted by a rich aroma of food. Zeke Chin handed her the food container. Upon lifting the lid, inside were juicy and plump stir-fried pork with wood ear mushrooms and white rice. Ivy's stomach growled. She began to shovel the rice into her mouth in big mouthfuls. Zeke Chin, dressed in a suit, squatted unpretentiously by the stairs, eating alongside her. Whenever someone pushes the door open, they'll see this comical scene. But Zeke Chin doesn't care, and neither does Ivy. Until the food container is empty, IVU wipes her mouth with a tissue and is about to say something when she feels a warm hand gently pat her head. Go for it. IVU's mood suddenly brightened. Ding dong. At noon, Mr. Yu prepared 3 dishes and a soup for his wife. The dishes are exquisite, with exceptional flavors. Just as he was taking off his apron to call his wife who had gone to the calligraphy club, he heard the doorbell ringing repeatedly. Coming, he trotted over to open the door. My father thought it was a delivery. After all, since retiring, my mother had become obsessed with online shopping, and the house was often piled high with delivery boxes. Looking up, he saw the disheveled face of Chase Fu instead. My father's expression darkened instantly. That day, he still held back at the dinner table. IVU was his only daughter, the beloved treasure he and his wife had doted on since childhood. They never dared to let her suffer any hardship. Yet she stumbled hard over Chase Fu, thinking of the tear stains on his daughter's face. Father Yu wished he could stab Chase Fu with a knife, demanding justice for his daughter and the child in her womb. But he still had his sanity. He merely pushed Chase Fu back and prepared to shut the door. Get out, you're not welcome in our home, outsider. Chase Fu quickly wedged his elbow between the door and its frame, disregarding the bruising it might cause. He pleaded, Dad, I know I was wrong. Please let me talk to IVU properly. I can't accept divorcing her. From now on, I promise I'll make things right with IVU and live well together. Please give me another chance. Father Yu's chest heaved continuously. He hesitated slightly. Out of selfishness, he had no intention of letting his daughter stay with Chase Fu any longer. But after all, this was a lingering concern. He didn't want his daughter to carry any shadows from this marriage. It would be best to address the issue openly. But just then, another voice chimed in. Chase. Turning around, it was Nova Chen. With her belly protruding, she stood before Chase Fu and Mr. Yu, tears streaming down her face. Chase. I was wrong. I shouldn't have told IVU about these things. If you don't want me, I deserve it. But this is your child. Chase, are you so heartless that you'd even abandon your own child? A ruthless glint flashed in Chase Fu's eyes. Ever since discovering that Nova Chen had personally delivered the evidence to IVU, he mercilessly fired Nova Chen and froze all assets under Nova Chen's name. Not only that, he forced Nova Chen to abort their child. It was this woman who destroyed his marriage. He would make her pay the price. But Chase Fu never expected that Nova Chen would actually follow him and find IVU's parents' home. He stood in front of Mr. Yu, coldly demanding, Nova Chen, didn't I warn you? You don't want to live anymore. Nova Chen shrank back. She was afraid. But her only reliance was Chase Fu. She couldn't afford to lose the CEO position she had secured, nor could she lose the child in her womb. How else would she live the rest of her life? So, Nova Chen knelt directly before Mr. Yu, kowtowing with loud thuds. Uncle, I beg you, I don't want to ruin Miss Yu's marriage, but the child can't grow up without a father. Please, I beg you to let us be together. His blood pressure surged violently. Mr. Yu clenched the doorknob tightly, feeling dizzy and disoriented, murmuring, what a sin. Then, he fainted straight away. IVU received the call and rushed to the hospital in a hurry, looking at her father lying on the hospital bed. IVU burst into tears. She stood up, turned around, and slapped Chase Fu. Still not satisfied, she slapped him twice more. Only when her palm was numb from the force did IVU gnash her teeth and curse. Chase Fu, you brought Nova Chen to my house and gave my father high blood pressure. Is this the outcome you wanted? Chase Fu lowered his head. He explained weakly, IVU, it's not like that. Let me explain. Get out, IVU shouted with a sob in her voice. Chase Fu. I feel sick just looking at you now. Take your mistress and get out of here. Chase Fu still wanted to explain himself. He wanted to say that he had come to apologize sincerely. He wanted to say that he would force Nova Chen to abort the child, and from now on, his children would only be those born with IVU. He wanted to add that Nova Chen wasn't brought here by him. But the moment his eyes caught sight of Zeke Qin rushing over, his expression changed drastically. Zeke Qin. Seeing Zeke Qin's protective stance, Chase Fu demanded, when did you get to know him? Zeke Qin shielded IVU and countered instead of answering. She told you to leave. Didn't you hear her? Chase Fu, however, was unwilling. Chang Hong Group and the companies under Zeke Qin's name are sworn rivals. Just 2 days ago, he had just held a new product launch event and was preparing to purchase a piece of land in the eastern suburbs of Shanghai for building a factory. All procedures were ready to go. But in the end, it was unexpectedly snatched away by Zeke Qin. This directly forced him to purchase another plot of land at more than double the price. Now, Zeke Qin is standing together with IVU. He couldn't help but overthink it. Chase Fu blurted out, "IVU, what right do you have to accuse me of cheating? Weren't you also with Zeke Qin?" The response he got was a punch. Zeke Qin had rushed over in a frantic hurry after hearing the news of his mentor's hospitalization. But the first thing he heard was Chase Fu's sophistry, not showing the slightest remorse, instead trying to smear IVU's name. Zeke Qin and Chase Fu got into a physical fight. The hospital room was in chaos. Zeke Qin struck, each move ruthless. He had once studied martial arts for a period of time, combined with years of fitness training, and soon gained the upper hand. Chase Fu was repeatedly beaten. He looked at IVU with pleading eyes, trying to evoke her pity. But IVU only had eyes for her father. Chase Fu's eyes dimmed, until a scream rang out, "Chase, what's wrong with you?" Nova Chen rushed into the hospital room, holding her pregnant belly as if in protest. She stood in front of Chase Fu. Zeke Qin wouldn't lay a hand on a pregnant woman, so he stopped and turned to give IVU a meaningful look. IVU tucked the blanket around her father. She stood up and said expressionlessly, "Chase Fu, wasn't it enough for you to flaunt your power with Nova Chen in front of my dad? Now you have to cause a scene in the hospital room. Does your conscience not bother you?" Chase Fu explained. "IVU, listen to me, get out." IVU spoke coldly. "If you bring him to the ward again, I'll have security throw both of you out." Chase Fu gritted his teeth and turned to leave helplessly. Seeing this, Nova Chen quickly followed. Outside the hospital, Chase Fu slapped Nova Chen hard. "Bitch, ah!" Nova Chen covered her face and collapsed to the ground, losing her balance. Chase Fu looked down at her and accused, "Don't think I don't know what you're scheming. If you had just behaved properly, it would have been fine. But you had to go and bring this matter to IVU's attention. I've given you a chance." Chase Fu's gaze cut through her like a knife, his ultimatum sharp. "If you don't get rid of it within 3 days, I'll make sure you can't survive in Shanghai." With that, he left without hesitation. Nova Chen's tears streamed down uncontrollably. She clutched her stomach and whispered softly, "I just want a home for myself and my child. You forced me into this. You forced me." That night, IVU was taking care of Father Yu in the hospital room, while Mother Yu sat beside them peeling fruit. Father Yu held IVU's hand and said, "Ivy, the hospital has nurses. You're still recovering, so you don't need to take care of me." IVU couldn't bear to leave, but if she didn't go, Zeke Qin wouldn't leave either. Standing like a living statue guarding the hospital room door, IVU knew that Zeke Qin was also worried. With the disparity in strength between men and women, if Chase Fu came to harass them again, how could 2 middle-aged people and a woman possibly fight him? She had no choice but to leave with Zeke Qin. On the way, IVU finished replying to messages and idly scrolled through her phone. After this incident, she secretly made a decision in her heart. She must divorce Chase Fu as soon as possible and completely sever all ties with him. She didn't want her parents to be upset, nor did she want to hear any more explanations. Betrayal is betrayal, and there's nothing more to say. Yet at that very moment, a news alert popped up in the message bar. Shocking. Chase Fu's relentless pursuit of love, only to find Mrs. Fu had already cheated. Click for details. IVU's heart skipped a beat. She clicked on it immediately. 10 minutes ago, a famous paparazzo broke the news. He originally only targeted female celebrities in the entertainment industry, but today, for the first time ever, he turned his spear toward the business world. Is the president of Chang Hong Group wearing a green hat? Here he is chasing his wife for love, while over there, his wife has booked a 188 centimeters male model. Is the child really President Fu's? The accompanying image is a photo of her and Zeke Qin together. Judging from the composition and angle of the shot, it was clearly taken by paparazzi as they were just leaving the hospital. Chase Fu's heartfelt confession at the press conference still echoes in our ears. Many people recognized it, quickly pushing the topic to the top of the trending list. The comments section below was simply unbearable to look at. Wow. Chase Fu is practically the #1 good guy in the country, and even he can't escape being cheated on. At IVU, everyone knows your identity, a seemingly delicate wife. But who would have thought you'd play around so wildly in private? What decent person goes for a prenatal checkup without their husband but brings a male model instead? TSK, not to slut shame, but CEO Fu would be better off marrying me than this fickle woman. IVU was trembling all over. Zeke Chin also noticed IVU's lapse in composure. He snatched her phone, took a quick glance, and his expression changed dramatically. IVU felt deeply wronged when she discovered Chase Fu's infidelity. When she found out the baby in Nova Chen's belly was further along than hers, she had only been heartbroken. But now, she truly felt wronged. It wasn't her who betrayed the love, yet in the end, all the negative pressure from public opinion piled onto her. Why? Just because she wanted to preserve some dignity for their years of affection out of personal sentiment, does she deserve to be slandered like this? Zeke Chin handed a tissue to IVU. After her sobs gradually subsided, Zeke Chin finally spoke again. IVU, what do you want to do? Whatever you decide, I'll support you. IVU took a deep breath. At this moment, her resolve was unwavering. I will make them pay. Zeke Chin restrained his urge to hug her, his gaze tenderly brushing over the tear stains on her cheeks as he firmly said, okay. He wouldn't let IVU get hurt again either. Back home, IVU removed Chase Fu from her blacklist. This incident didn't just affect her, it also impacted Zeke Chin's reputation. She had to find out whether it was Chase Fu who had instigated it. Unexpectedly, Chase Fu beat her to the call, anxiously saying, Ivy, I saw that trending topic, it must be Nova Chen's doing. This afternoon, I warned her repeatedly. But I never expected her to be so audacious. Actually, I've already figured out how to handle this. The company is holding an offline meetup in a couple of days. You and I will attend together, and I'll explain to the shareholders and consumers. Okay, in just an instant, IVU understood Chase Fu's intention. For this kind of rumor, all it takes is for Chase Fu to personally step forward and explain. Even if some remain skeptical, they won't continue to accuse or spread rumors about IVU. But the cost of this approach is forcing IVU to stay. At this very moment, countless vile words are hurled at IVU through social media platforms, but Chase Fu doesn't care. He only wants to seize the opportunity to keep IVU by his side. IVU calmly said, no need for such trouble. Simply having both official accounts simultaneously post a lawyer's statement will be enough to stop these rumors. Chase Fu dodged the question, saying, our simultaneous presence would carry more weight than sending a lawyer's letter. IVU sneered, but, Chase Fu, have you considered that I have no intention of appearing in the same place with you under the guise of being a couple? If one day we happen to be in the same place, it will only be because we're going to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get a divorce. Chase Fu instantly flared up. Divorce, it's always about divorce. IVU, I know I was wrong. But have I ever mistreated you all these years? Just because I made one mistake, you're going to completely write me off. IVU, are you in such a hurry to divorce me just to be with Zeke Chin? Let me tell you, all men stray. Even if you're with him, one day he'll end up just like me. Enough. IVU scolded sharply, her eyes filled with coldness. Chase Fu, I misjudged you. I gave you one chance regarding the divorce, but since you didn't cherish it, don't blame me for being ruthless. She hung up the phone and blocked Chase Fu again. At the same time, she opened the social media platform. She flipped through her photo album and deleted all the beautiful memories related to Chase Fu. What remained were the evidences of his infidelity. IVU carefully organized them one by one. She posted evidence of Chase Fu's infidelity online in chronological order. The first wave of revelations consisted of explicit photos of Chase Fu and Nova Chen. She added as much mosaic censorship as possible to reduce the explicitness. Even so, it still shocked the first wave of netizens who rushed to the scene. The phones started ringing one after another. No need to guess, it was clear that Chase Fu was now cornered and desperate. IVU simply removed the SIM card and continued editing using only the Wi-Fi connection. The second wave of revelations. IVU compiled the chat records between Chase Fu and Nova Chen. The third wave of revelations. IVU organized and released the provocative messages Nova Chen actively sent. The fourth wave, the fifth wave, until the last revelation. IVU released the wedding video of herself and Chase Fu. In the footage, the two were beaming with joy. IVU, dressed in a pristine white wedding gown, extended her left hand, allowing the ring to slip onto her ring finger, binding herself to Chase Fu. Back then, she was willing and content, but in a sudden shift, the original recording turned into complete blankness. Only IVU's calm voice remained. She spoke while recording, expressing her feelings as smoothly as possible. If I were with you, Chase Fu, for the sake of money, then I deserve the fate I have today. If I were with you for your looks, then I also deserve the fate I have today. If I were with you to climb the social ladder, then I shouldn't even be here now, I'd be utterly damned. But the truth is, it was none of these. Chase Fu, all I wanted was your love, yet you couldn't even give me that most basic thing, and now you're trying to smear my name. I think it's time for us to part ways completely. Not only that, Zeke Chin even used his official account to repost the update, detailing his relationship with Yu's father. Public opinion erupted instantly, especially when many female netizens saw the comparison between IVU and Nova Chen's pregnancy test reports. They were instantly heartbroken. The mistress's baby bump is even bigger than the wife's. Chase Fu, how dare you still play the devoted lover with that shameless face? Even as a man, I can't stand it. If you're going to cheat, just cheat. How dare you act so righteous about it, and then turn around and slander your wife? How despicable can you be? Oh my God. So IVU was the one actually being cheated on, yet Chase Fu paid off the paparazzi to claim she cheated first. How much pain must she be in? IVU let out a relieved sigh after finishing all this. Leaning back in her chair, her gaze suddenly caught sight of a photo of her and Chase Fu still sitting on the desk. To be precise, it was taken when they graduated from graduate school. In the photo, both of them looked spirited and full of ambition. Some say that whenever Chase Fu and IVU take a photo together, Chase Fu never looks at the camera, his gaze is always fixed on IVU. This one was no exception. But IVU merely glanced at it briefly before pulling out the photo, tearing it to shreds, and finally tossing it into the trash. The next day at work, IVU arrived at the office early. The moment she inserted the SIM card, her phone nearly froze. Countless calls and messages flooded in. Beyond social media, her communication accounts were also overwhelmed with messages. Some were from the girls who had gossiped about her that day, now offering sincere apologies. Senior, we're sorry. We spoke without understanding the full picture and hurt you. We apologize. One part is close friends and family. Ivy, no matter what you do, we will support you. IVU, you're being so unreasonable. How many men don't cheat? What's important is to keep a tight grip on his money. To the former, IVU responded with kindness. As for the latter, IVU blocked them without hesitation. Among them, Peiyu's messages stood out the most, perhaps realizing his message had been read. Peiyu immediately called, "Sis-in-law, no offense, but you're way too reckless." IVU listened quietly. Yes, Brother Fu did make a mistake, but how many men in the world don't cheat nowadays? His money is on you, his heart is with you. If Nova Chen wants to have a child, let her, it won't take away your status anyway. What exactly are you making a fuss about? Do you know that because of those messages you sent last night, Brother Fu was summoned for a talk by the higher-ups? And the two key projects the company had planned for this year have all fallen through. Can't you think about the consequences before you act? Peiyu spoke with impassioned fervor. IVU had only 2 comments in response. Peiyu, to be honest, I never liked you from the start and always thought you were an idiot. Now I can finally say with full confidence, you truly are a complete and utter moron. With that, IVU directly blocked Peiyu. But that wasn't the end of it. That afternoon, IVU came across a piece of gossip online, the scandal about the president of Fu Corporation's infidelity, which was all over the internet last night, took an unexpected turn when the alleged mistress, Nova Chen, was spotted at the hospital today. Netizens were curious about why Nova Chen was at the hospital. Could it be that Chase Fu accompanied his mistress for a prenatal checkup? Damn, that's so disgusting. Chase Fu is accusing IVU of cheating while taking his mistress for a prenatal checkup. No wonder the original spouse always gets the short end of the stick. Rich and powerful old men have it easy, clearly cheating first, then using their wealth to manipulate public opinion and play the victim. If I were IVU, I'd have already broken down by now. Who'd even be in the mood to gossip? Spill the tea. Blogger, what was the mistress really up to? The blogger quickly replied. Nova Chen came for an abortion. Countless ears perked up in the comment section. The blogger continued to share intermittently. I was right next to the radiology department at the time. I heard she was forced into it. Chase Fu paid her a hefty sum to keep quiet, made her leave Shanghai, and told her to watch her step. The crowd found it both unbelievable and satisfying. Serves her right. That's what homewreckers deserve. A small number of people tagged IVU in the comments. At IVU. The bad guy got what he deserved. Do you feel a little better now? At IVU, justice and righteousness are on your side. The cheating scumbag and the homewrecker will be condemned by everyone. IVU raised an eyebrow. She didn't react much to this. After all, she had already made up her mind to divorce Chase Fu. As for whom he wanted to have children with, or whose children he didn't want, it had nothing to do with her anymore. Moreover, she had always believed that people were focusing on the wrong issue. Yes, the mistress was indeed despicable. Those days when Nova Chen was frolicking all over her face, she truly thought this woman had no shame. But it's not just women who cheat, it takes two to tango. If Chase Fu hadn't left himself vulnerable, would there have been an opportunity for the other woman to rise? IVU felt a deep sense of calm within. After completing the group report for the project, IVU knocked on Zeke Chen's door. She sat across from the office chair, earnestly delivering her report. Zeke Chen listened without blinking. IVU herself was completely unaware that she possessed considerable personal charm. Even before the rumors were clarified, many people privately referred to IVU as a useless canary. They believed she was merely a pampered wife. And even with her academic qualifications, she might not be able to handle major occasions when it truly mattered. Until IVU took the stage to present, they realized that IVU's prestigious university education wasn't for nothing, and her eloquence wasn't just for show. She pinpointed the project's flaws with precision, and her suggestions were remarkably insightful. She quickly won the favor of many company executives. The gossip and rumors about IVU gradually began to fade. IVU looked at Zeke Chen and couldn't help but ask, "Is there something on my face? Why do you keep staring at me?" Zeke Chen suddenly snapped out of his thoughts. He picked up his coffee and said, as if to cover up, "I was just thinking, please don't mind me," after finishing official business. The two then turned to personal matters. Zeke Chen asked casually, "What do you plan to do next? Since you've openly fallen out with Chase Fu, there should be an outcome eventually, right?" IVU nodded. "Divorce, of course," Zeke Chen pressed further. When, this time it was IVU's turn to be somewhat surprised, but she didn't dwell on it and answered honestly, "Tomorrow." IVU met Chase Fu on the afternoon of the third day, to be precise. It was only after Chase Fu swallowed his pride and begged various friends in the circle that he managed to secure a meeting with IVU. Unlike his usual elite image, Chase Fu was unshaven. Not only that, but he also had to wear a mask when going out, which could be described as utterly humiliating. After all, following several days of public outcry, Chase Fu and Nova Chen had become public enemies, and the stock of Changhong Group hit the limit down as soon as the market opened. Many consumers even returned their newly purchased products. The reason was simple: a CEO who cheats on his spouse yet tries to maintain a loving husband persona, even naming products after his wife. This behavior didn't sit well with them. The company quickly descended into chaos. Shareholders demanded a change in leadership, while many female employees chose to resign due to Chase Fu's negative scandal. Economic experts judge that Changhong Group is now like a dying camel. Unless they shed the heavy burden that is Chase Fu, otherwise, there's absolutely no chance of a comeback. Chase Fu has clearly suffered considerable torment. Facing IVU, He could no longer maintain his usual tenderness and composure. Frustrated, he demanded, "Ivy, what exactly do you want? You know perfectly well that Changhong Group is my life's work. Now you're trying to destroy it. Do you have any idea how many people have called to curse me these past few days? Or how much financial loss I've suffered?" Ivy Yu firmly denied, "No, it wasn't me who destroyed it. It was you." Chase Fu was stunned. Ivy Yu refuted logically, "It was you who knew about the affair but refused to admit it. You who pushed my father into the hospital step by step. You who first slandered my reputation online. It's all your own fault." Chase Fu looked at her with reddened eyes. "Then what price do you want me to pay? I've already made Nova Chen abort the child and driven her out of Shanghai. She will never appear before you again in this lifetime. I've also issued a public apology to restore the innocence you deserve. What else do you want me to do?" Ivy Yu said, "I want a divorce." Chase Fu flatly denied, "Absolutely not, even if you sue me. I'm willing to be your husband for just one more day. I've already lost so much, I can't lose you too." Ivy Yu pulled out documents from her briefcase. "Is that so?" Chase Fu opened the folder and after quickly scanning through it, his expression turned extremely grim. Companies that grow big and strong inevitably get involved in some gray areas. Chase Fu is no exception. Ivy Yu has been married to him for many years, and she knows all too well what evidence would be fatal. With the release of this document, it directly strangles Chase Fu's lifeline. Once made public, it's not just a matter of whether Chase Fu's company can survive, but an entire management team would collapse. He closed his eyes and asked helplessly, "Do we really have to go this far?" Ivy Yu replied calmly, "Divorce in exchange for the evidence in your hands, it's fair." Chase Fu finally lowered his head in defeat. He said, "Fine, Ivy Yu, since you've put it that way, I agree." The divorce certificate was collected on a sunny and breezy afternoon, just like when they had obtained their marriage certificate. Ivy Yu still walked with light steps. She had thrown herself into love without hesitation, and upon discovering betrayal, she left just as decisively. Chase Fu was completely different. He kept procrastinating, even changing the date to get the divorce certificate multiple times, until Ivy Yu presented the evidence once again. He had no way to avoid it. The divorce papers in hand, Chase Fu stopped Ivy Yu, hesitated for a moment, and finally couldn't help but ask, "Ivy Yu, if one day I change for the better, can I pursue you again? Or, can we at least remain friends?" "No," Ivy Yu replied calmly. Her bright pupils gazed at Chase Fu, as if laying bare every shadow in his heart. "People who have truly loved each other can't remain friends after a breakup or divorce, because I truly loved you, and I truly hated you." Chase Fu watched her leave. The sunlight was warm, yet as Ivy Yu disappeared from view, Chase Fu felt the last trace of warmth within him vanish as well. He looked at the marriage certificate and divorce certificate in his hand. The marriage certificate had already been stamped with an official seal declaring it void, as if mocking the love he had lost. Truth be told, he didn't understand where exactly things had gone wrong, back when they exchanged vows. He had genuinely intended to devote himself wholeheartedly to this girl, so why had he strayed from the right path later on? Chase Fu paid no heed to the gazes of others. He curled up on the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. No, he refused to accept it. Ivy Yu bypassed the main road and arrived at the underground parking lot of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Zeke Chin was waiting for her. Watching Ivy Yu happily looking at the divorce certificate, Zeke Chin suggested, "How about we go grab a meal together?" Ivy Yu didn't refuse. They found a private restaurant that prioritized privacy, entered a private room, and ordered a table full of dishes. Ivy Yu is very hungry. To be precise, her appetite hasn't been good lately. Not only is she exhausted from dealing with Chase Fu, but she's also busy with the upcoming trial production of the road project. At first glance, her cheeks appear increasingly gaunt. Zeke Chin unhurriedly served dishes to Ivy Yu, watching her chew like a little hamster, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. Until the meal was finished, Zeke Chin suddenly asked, "Ivy Yu, after your divorce with Chase Fu, would you consider entering marriage again?" Ivy Yu paused her hand-wiping motion. She did not answer the question immediately but instead fell into silence, deep in thought. Finally, she gave a response, "Yes." Zeke Chen's eyes suddenly lit up. "IVU said, I've witnessed my parents' beautiful love, so I placed the same expectations on Chase Fu. The hope was shattered. But that doesn't mean I won't encounter a love as beautiful as my parents again. I believe my luck is still quite good." Zeke Chen tightened his grip on the teacup in his hand. The hot tea, just refilled by the waiter, was scalding to the touch. Yet Zeke Chen seemed completely unaware. He mustered his courage and finally asked cautiously, "Then may I humbly ask you to include me in your considerations?" This time, it was IVU's turn to be surprised. "Mrs. You had once privately hinted that Zeke Chen's attentiveness wasn't solely due to his student-teacher relationship with Mr. Yu. He likely had ulterior motives." At the time, IVU had dismissed the idea. She had been married, had an abortion, and was just starting her career in her 30s. Zeke Chen achieved career success early on, with countless women expressing their admiration over the years, yet he remained chaste all this time. How could the two of them possibly spark any chemistry? Yet now, Zeke Chen was humbly asking her to consider him as a potential future partner. Why, IVU thought so, and naturally asked accordingly. Zeke Chen carefully took out a photo from his wallet. IVU recognized it at a glance. It was taken in the garden at home during the new year, the year before she graduated from graduate school. At that time, she posted it on her social media. Unexpectedly, Zeke Chen secretly took a screenshot and kept it in his wallet. IVU couldn't help but laugh. "Zeke Chen, you're acting like a total stalker." Zeke Chen was so embarrassed he wished the ground would swallow him. He whispered an explanation. "Actually, it's not that. I really wanted to take the initiative to ask for a photo with you. But at that time, I was starting my own business and had nothing to my name." The year he met IVU, Zeke Chen fell in love with this lively and cheerful girl at first sight. He was an extremely cautious person. Before confessing his feelings, he carefully compared his family background with IVU's in detail. Currently starting a business, carrying the livelihoods of thousands of people. If the company fails to go public successfully, he will be heavily in debt, although he firmly believes he will succeed, but he didn't dare to gamble. IVU was so wonderful, she deserved to live a good life as a matter of course, not spend her days in constant fear and worry. So, he took a step back. He thought that, at the very least, he should wait until he had achieved success in his career and possessed the means to make IVU truly happy before pursuing her or confessing his feelings. But by that day, IVU was already married. Zeke Chen said bitterly, "Actually, when you told me your wedding would be held at the Global Stadium, I knew." Because on the day IVU got married, Zeke Chen gave a thick red envelope as a gift and drowned his sorrows alone in a bar across from the Global Stadium. He thought, if IVU could be happy, he would silently watch over her for a lifetime. Over time, he gradually faded out of IVU's sight. Apart from sending local specialties to Ivy's parents every year and making courtesy calls, he never appeared before IVU again. Because he couldn't bear to watch the girl he loved call someone else her husband. For someone as disciplined and restrained as him, it was pure torture. Until the chance encounter at the car accident, Zeke Chen has thanked the heavens countless times for that day when, moved by a sudden impulse, he took the risk and crashed into the parallel taxi. Otherwise, he would have lost IVU forever. Zeke Chen recounted the past in a calm tone, noticing the slight moisture in IVU's eyes, and quickly explained, "IVU, I'm not trying to win sympathy here, please don't misunderstand. I was just thinking, after all these years of secret admiration, could you give me a chance?" IVU smiled slightly. "Of course you can." Zeke Chen's previously dim eyes suddenly lit up. IVU then changed the subject. "But you'll have to wait." Zeke Chen let out an ah. IVU counted on her fingers. "Right now, I'm just like you were back then, at the peak of my career. I don't want to be just a pampered wife anymore. I want to have my own career and social circle. At the very least, if we do end up together someday, I want people to refer to me as President Yu, not Mrs. Chen." Zeke Chen gave her a deep, lingering look. He said, "All right, I promise you all of that." IVU became busy. She started leaving early and returning late, just like other research workers, sometimes even having to stay up all night. But she was content. Friends and family thought this marriage would at least leave IVU deeply wounded, immersed in sorrow for a long time. In fact, IVU is not available. Submit this data report to the production line, and arrange for 2 team members to attend the expo with me. Within just half a year, IVU has been promoted to team leader. She ties up her long hair neatly, with exquisite makeup, and every move she makes is full of charm. At the same time, she is also the core figure of the team. Within just half a year, IVU not only established a collaboration channel between Zeke Chin's company and universities but also further expanded the research team, ensuring the invested funds were well spent. Not far away, a team member coughed as a reminder. IVU put away her phone after a brief moment of slacking off, only to look up and realize it was Zeke Chin. This had become their secret signal. IVU had a sensitive stomach and was very picky about food. So Zeke Chin would bring her lunchboxes with different dishes every day, just to ensure IVU ate regularly. The two didn't bother picking a spot. They squatted in the building's fire escape, chatting about work while wolfing down their food, looking every bit like well-synced business partners. "I'll go to the afternoon expo with you." Zeke Chin made the final decision. "I recently heard about a new product related to gears from a university in Shanghai, and I'm very interested in it." IVU didn't even look up. All right. In the afternoon, the two appeared together at the expo venue. The accompanying staff immediately greeted them. "President Chin, President Yu." IVU had to admit that what Zeke Chin said back then made sense. Being called President Yu was much better than being called Mrs. Fu. That feeling was absolutely exhilarating. The staff enthusiastically introduced the products to both of them, never showing favoritism from start to finish, because they knew well that the decision-maker wasn't just Zeke Chin, but also the team's strategist, IVU. Until the two walked up to a display board. Looking up, they were instantly stunned. IVU discreetly pointed and whispered, "Is this Changhong Company's display board?" Zeke Chin whispered, 3 months ago, Changhong Group was already on the decline. Their new energy department went bankrupt and was restructured, sold to a third-party outsourcing company, and the parent company also faced a broken capital chain. Just half a year ago, Changhong Group was at the peak of its influence in Shanghai, yet 6 months later, it had been reduced to a small company only worthy of a single display board in a corner. "It's truly lamentable." After just a brief moment of contemplation, IVU rationally changed the subject. "Let's go look at products that are more indicative." "All right." When leaving the exhibition, Zeke Chin went to the underground parking lot to get the car. IVU was flipping through the exhibition report with her head down when she suddenly heard shouts nearby. IVU, turning to look, it was actually Chase Fu, just like Changhong Group. Compared to his unstoppable momentum half a year ago, Chase Fu appeared very gaunt, no longer surrounded by a large entourage of staff, fallen from grace. This was IVU's first thought. At the same time, Chase Fu was also observing IVU. With her delicate makeup, impeccable attire, and professional demeanor, IVU now exuded more charm compared to her pampered appearance half a year ago. Chase Fu suddenly lowered his head with a hint of self-doubt. He stammered a greeting. "IVU, how have you been lately?" IVU nodded calmly. "I'm doing well." For a moment, the two stood in silence. Chase Fu sadly realized that he and IVU were no longer on the same level. Their lives are worlds apart. IVU seems to have become better off after leaving him. "Ivy, let's go." Not far away, Zeke Chin parked the car and came to pick up IVU in person. The two snapped back to reality. Chase Fu watched as Zeke Chin took the briefcase from IVU's hands and walked toward the car. Suddenly, as if possessed, he blurted out, "Did you leave me back then for him?" IVU stopped in her tracks. She found it utterly unbelievable, but after careful consideration, she wasn't angry, just gave a very firm reply. No. Hope rose in Chase Fu's heart. He thought that at least he still had a chance, but IVU's next words shattered his illusion without hesitation. "It's to be called President Yu, not someone's little sweet wife." IVU strode away. She sat in the passenger seat of the McLaren, discussing the preferred supplier with Zeke Chin. As long as they cooperated, they could secure a 3% profit margin. To Chase Fu, it appeared as if the two were chatting and laughing. completely disregarding his presence. Chase Fu clenched his fists. It turned out that Ivy had already walked away completely, though no one knew exactly when it started. Ivy and Zeke Chin got married 3 years after they first met. Zeke Chin's company continued to expand its territory, while Ivy managed the overseas markets. They were known as the most harmonious money-making duo. As a gift, Zeke Chin presented Ivy with 10% of the company's shares on her birthday. He knelt on one knee, looking sincerely at Ivy. "President Yu, now that I'm worthy, may I have the chance to ask you to be my wife?" Ivy burst into laughter. She gracefully extended her hand and said decisively, "I do." Surrounded by close friends and family, they cheered for Ivy, just as they had once cheered for her love with Chase Fu. But Ivy thought Zeke Chin was different. She was willing to keep trying, to keep believing in love. But her life is not just about love, it also includes career, family, and friendship. These elements intertwine to shape Ivy. Amid the cheers of a packed crowd, she finally understands the difference between Zeke Chin and Chase Fu. Chase Fu wanted Ivy to rely solely on him, but once Chase Fu changes his heart, Ivy seems to have no other use beyond her value as Mrs. Fu. But Zeke Chin is different. He longs for Ivy to become Mrs. Chin, but he would rather see her become CEO Yu. He yearns to witness Ivy shine brilliantly in the business world. "I love you." Ivy leaned close to Zeke Chin's ear and whispered softly. Zeke Chin shuddered, then he raised his head, eyes brimming with tears, and replied earnestly, "I love you too, Ivy." In the second year of their marriage, they welcomed their own child. She is an incredibly adorable daughter named Miu. Zeke Chin, as Ivy wished, is not only a devoted and responsible husband but also an excellent stay-at-home dad. He takes Miu to work every day, willingly embracing the role of being enslaved. Ivy hasn't given up on her family. She was busy earning more money while pouring her boundless love into Miu. In the evening, Zeke Chin went to the company for a meeting. Ivy had just returned from abroad and was on her way to pick up her daughter Miu. But no one expected that Miu would finish class 10 minutes early. She obediently waited at the school gate. Suddenly, a tall and well-built man approached her. He was strikingly handsome, a completely different type from Zeke Chin. "Uncle, you're blocking my view," Miu spoke in her sweet, childish voice. The man immediately stepped aside, but upon seeing Miu's face, he froze in a daze. He couldn't help but ask, "Is your mother's name Ivy?" Miu widened her eyes. "Wow, mister, that kind of pickup line to kidnap kids is so outdated now." Her parents had taught her since childhood to be wary of human traffickers, no matter who comes, especially those who can accurately call out the parents' names and claim to be their friends. Must never be followed except for the parents themselves. Miu has always kept this in mind. Chase Fu gave a bitter smile. With just one glance, he recognized that this was Ivy's child. "It really looks like her, just as mischievous and quirky as her too." If he hadn't betrayed Ivy back then, if he hadn't gotten entangled with Nova Chen, his child would probably be calling him daddy in that adorable baby voice now, instead of uncle. "Chin Miu." A familiar voice came from not far away. Chase Fu shuddered all over. He immediately turned around, moving out of Ivy and Miu's line of sight. Miu nestled into Ivy's arms, and the two of them, one big and one small, held hands as they got into the car, drawing many sidelong glances. Chase Fu stood not far away, watching Ivy's every smile and frown, watching Miu acting coquettishly towards her. He knew they once had a child together, and this happy life should have been his too, yet he was the one who destroyed it all. Chase Fu thought, he didn't deserve happiness in this lifetime.